What's up, guys? Welcome to Mark's World with your host, Matt here. Thank you for joining us. This is the first ever video I'm putting out. Here at Mark's World, the plan is we're going to be putting out professional wrestling content. We're going to be doing paper reviews, weekly wrestling reviews. We're going to make out some lists, come up with a podcast, come up with ideas, and just get into the world of being able to talk about professional wrestling. So this video today is going to focus mainly on the Full Gear pay-per-view that just happened over the weekend, and I gotta tell you, I really like this card. I really liked everything on here. Obviously, not everything was perfect, but we're gonna do a deep dive and just give some reviews on all of the matches that came up thus far. If you guys like the content, you guys want to see more, see us do different things, give us a follow, give us a like, share us, subscribe if possible, and follows us on other social media. Okay, but before I get into it, as you can tell, I'm pretty new at this, but I really like professional wrestling, and I'm really happy with the content that's being put out. So, might as well dip my toe into the social media world and be able to talk about it. So, we're going to start all the way. We're going to do both the pre-show and the main show. So, I'm going to start off just generally with where we were opening the card. So, the first match we had on the pre-show was between Eddie Kingston and we had Jay Lethal for the Ring of Honor World title. And I thought it was just a nice match to open up the card. Eddie was really popular. You could hear his reaction in the crowd. Everyone seemed to really enjoy seeing Eddie out there. For the most part, the match itself was pretty straightforward. You have Lethal really involved in with sort of Jeff Jarrett and that whole posse. And I think it works. I think what we've seen from Jay Lethal in the past, he really is just kind of enjoying this sort of, what I would say, maybe twilight of his career. Definitely still feels believable in Ring of Honor, definitely still can wrestle, but I think he's having fun right now, and the match itself was fun. They tried to bring in a lot of the backstory between Jay and Eddie, and I'm a little bit of a newer fan, as in I'm not that old, but I mean, I still liked it. I thought it was nice. I thought it was fine for Jay, and I thought it was fine for Eddie. The big thing at the end of the match was Ortiz is back, and Ortiz comes down, takes out Sanjay. Eddie picks up the win and was able to grab the mic and then just kind of hype up the show to come. So I thought everything was fine. I like Ortiz, and I think Ortiz and Kingston work really well together. Although I will say, when I saw Ortiz the first time, the first thing that popped into my head was, what are they doing with his ex-tag partner? What are they doing with Santana? I think that's kind of going to come up because after that match they had a couple weeks ago on Rampage, my next thing every time I see Ortiz is going to be, what are they doing with Santana? You know, happy to see Ortiz and happy to see him back, and I think him with Eddie does make a lot of sense, and I think they work well together. So I'm excited to see where that goes, and I'm excited to see kind of what happens with those two, but I mean, we will find out from Eddie later on the show when we get to it. But I thought it was fine. Nothing super big, nothing super important really happened in this match. Just was sort of another victory for Eddie Kingston, and now Ortiz is with him. So guess we'll see him more on Ring of Honor. Not too bad, nothing so much to report. Kind of same with the next match where you had Buddy Matthews and Claudio Castagnoli. I think they both got, when I was watching this match and I saw it come up first, I think they both got pretty good receptions. I think the House of Black sort of presentation and their entrances are just better. So people were happy to see Buddy, people were happy to see Claudio. I love this match. I was happy with it. I really enjoyed watching these two. I wish, this wasn't a pre-show match. I wish they had maybe been more involved enough to be in the main card, but for a pre-show match, this is about the best you're gonna get. It's two hard-hitting guys. Buddy Matthews always looks great. I love Buddy Matthews. I will mark out for him every time I see him. The guy has the look of a champion. He's got the size, he's got the speed. Not big on the mic, but given his character, he doesn't really need to talk. He just can be a formidable threat every time I see him. Nothing super shocking there, and I'm a big fan of him, and I'm a big fan of Claudio. Claudio always looks good. Claudio, I think, feeling a little bit on the back burner with the BCC was very much good. Like, he's fine in that role. He's a former Ring of Honor World Champion now. Obviously, he gets a lot of TV time being with Blackpool Combat Club. But it's a good match. It's solid. I really kind of was thinking about it that when you look at the offense of both of them, I mean, Buddy's kicks just sound like they really hurt. They don't sound fun at all. They don't sound very enjoyable. And Claudio, again, was able to go really quick for his size and was really enjoyable to watch. I think of the two of them, Buddy was definitely selling the most. I don't think Claudio was selling as much as Buddy was, but again, I mean, they're both kind of in that weird spot where they're in these factions. They're not particularly doing a whole lot right now, so it makes sense to throw them together. So I'm interested to see where it goes. Eventually, the winner ends up being Claudio at the end. He gets the win here over Buddy. It's a good win for Claudio. It's another loss for Buddy. Nothing really changes. This very much seemed like, okay, pre-show, might as well just add the best match I can with no build. Great, I'll give you Buddy Matthews, Claudio Castagnoli. I think everybody's happy. I don't think anyone was clamoring for them needing a match, but everyone was happy that they got it. So I'm very happy with it. They did seem to try to tease that the next big feud possibly could be between the Blackpool Combat Club and House of Black. If that actually does go down, it'll be interesting. I'll definitely be into that. I felt that the way they were talking on commentary, you can see them, they were definitely saying, well, you know, Buddy's got the 1-0 victory, and then now with Claudio, it's 1-1. Maybe that's a build-up that they're going to try to do. If this is the next big war between the BCC, is going to be with the House of Black. I definitely will be interested to see how that goes, mainly because when you have a lot of things kind of brewing for AEW, when I was thinking about the Continental Classic, you got the whole different sorts of titles that the House of Black could go after. Also at the BCC, with Jon Moxley being in that international title picture. It will be interesting. I think it's interesting how they match up. You have Moxley probably going up against Malachi. You have Claudio probably maybe continuing with Buddy Matthews. And then I guess the question ends up becoming, who do you go with then next? Because is Bryan Danielson going to be a part of this? They're really seeming to separate Bryan Danielson from the BCC of late, mainly just because of injuries. He's not able to get on TV. He's not able to get around there. But we know Bryan Danielson's going to be in the tournament. So maybe they're going to have House of Black and BCC be in the tournament and then build off a feud from there, which wouldn't be a bad idea. I really hope they do load up that tournament with everybody. I don't think anyone would be upset at that. I think the more stars in that tournament, the better. So, very much excited. Very much another sort of pre-show match. Not too much to talk about. The last pre-show match, though, we had a lot to talk about. Was interesting. It went kind of how I thought they were possibly going to do it, and then until it didn't. So, of course, I'm talking about MJF teaming with Samoa Joe versus the Guns for the Ring of Honor tag titles. Now, I think going into this match, my big thing is, I don't think MJF needs the tag titles. I know that they're using it, and they're using those titles mainly to progress the story with Adam Cole and waiting for him to come back and him wanting for him to come back. I just don't see why we constantly still need these. It doesn't add really anything to MJF. It just actually gives him more things he has to do that he really shouldn't have to be doing. So going into the match, it was kind of weird. The first thing I saw, though, I was like, why does he only have one of the titles? Because Adam Cole's not here. And then immediately after I said that, Adam Cole comes out. So Adam Cole was the big sort of surprise coming out during this match. He was coming out to be in the corner of MJF to encourage him on. I will say this. I love the Guns being on TV. I have no issue with these guys being on TV. They don't need to win at all. They're good heels. They're good at cheating. They're good at annoying the fans. The fans do not like them. I think they're perfect. I think if you want a young tag team to look forward to in this company, it's the Guns. Plain and simple. They're talented. They're able to actually, now having all this experience, work the crowd. And I think they do their job well. They're effective. I was excited to see them. I was excited to see how this would go. And they didn't disappoint me at all. And with that, Samoa Joe also looks like $1 million. I think, obviously, with the build-up of how many storylines MJF was in, the logical plan was that Samoa Joe would be next. MJF would pick up the win today versus Jay White, and then you have Samoa Joe on the horizon. And I think they could further that because Samoa Joe looks good. I liked the little teasing that they had, little anger moments. They couldn't really get along. I didn't really feel like the belts were ever in danger, but it was good to see that. You know, they kind of... MJF and Joe went at each other a little bit. Pretty good. A lot of mention, though, one thing I've noted is that Juice Robinson wasn't here. And the way they were talking about Juice Robinson made me feel that he was just going to pop out like Crash Bandicoot at any minute. But he never did. I guess they really were selling the fact that he did get hit with that TV, and he really wasn't going to show up. So the amount they talked about him was odd, because I was expecting him then to come out, and he never did. Adam Cole coming down at the end, basically, to help the team. And then Samoa Joe actually was the one who picked up the win. He was the one that got the submission, which I think was a nice little nod to the fact of, well, Joe's really good. Joe actually poses a threat. So, Samoa Joe wins. MJF retains. MJF and Adam Cole are still your Ring of Honor Tag Champions. Whether you like it or not, that's what it is. I personally don't think they need the belts, but, you know, if they're really going to double down and they want them to be champions, maybe save that for when Adam Cole possibly turns on MJF, or vice versa, and then that separates that. But I don't need constant Ring of Honor Tag Team knowledge in my head for when I watch AEW. I think it's good. I think they probably, if it were up to me, probably should have dropped the titles when he got injured. But again, I think it was a way to, you know, keep them involved, keep them in the storyline. So, not something I'm upset about, but wasn't the biggest fan. But the story so far with it has been good. You can't deny that. It's been enjoyable. So, the elephant in the room is going to be what happened after this match. And this will be, we'll talk about this more too when we go into the main event. But what transpired after this match was a little confusing and just not needed. I could see and visualize what was going on and what the plan was, but I have some issues with that. So, post-match, the Guns come out and attack. They attack MJF, they go after his leg, they go after his knee, bring out a chair. Cole and Austin just start beating the hell out of his leg. Big shots. This whole time, Adam Cole's just standing there. He's just standing there, watching it happen. And I think they really were trying to sell the injury that Cole has. He's just helpless, he can't do anything. It was a weird visual. I can imagine even if I had a broken leg, I might try to jump in the ring, especially if this is my best friend. So, that was a little odd. The Guns run out. They get chased off. They eventually leave. All of the refs and medical staff come down. They grab MJF. They put him in sort of the medical cart. They bring him all the way down to the loading dock where an ambulance is waiting for him. And he's on his way to the hospital. So he's leaving the building. He's not there. And he yells to Adam Cole back as they're closing the doors, "Don't let them take my title, Adam. Don't let them take my title." And then he's gone. So we now have an injured champion who's supposed to be in the main event. And they're going they're not even that he's injured. He's so injured, he's going to the hospital right now. And he's not coming back. Doesn't seem like for a hot second. And just to add a little confusion to this, I don't know how many people caught this, but at the end of when the camera pans back to Adam Cole, Austin Gunn is just walking down the ramp, just nonchalantly. Just like, all right, good job, match is over, just walking in the back. I thought that left me laughing a little bit, and I was a little confused. So, I will say this. I was interested to see what was going to happen. I wasn't expecting him to go down with an injury. In terms of just technical of how it was done, I think it was done well. Like, the Guns make sense. They're assholes. They're heels. Their boss is fighting him in the main event. Why wouldn't they try to injure him? Might as well. I didn't think they were going to injure him that bad. Or I was at least expecting, I don't know, someone else, or, Samoa Joe maybe to try to help. But, again, it wouldn't make sense for Joe to help. He doesn't care about MJF. He helped him win the belts. He's out of there. He's just going to wait his turn for the title. So yeah, and then it ends with MJF leaving the building. And all of a sudden, I'm interested. I'm hooked. But I wouldn't be after I hear more information. And that ends the pre-show. So I thought the pre-show was good. Definitely good matches. I mean, you're getting 3 decent matches that you would probably find on Collision, Rampage, or Dynamite in some week for free for the first half an hour. I don't think anyone's complaining about that. My only question I had with the pre-show is, I would expect the pre-show to just have good matches. I'm not expecting to build a lot of information from the pre-show. I felt like AEW was really banking on the fact that their fans are going to watch the pre-show for future events. They do the tease with the BCC and the House of Black that these two might go to war with each other, and it's a little caveat. Why is it on the pre-show? If you miss the pre-show, you're never going to catch that. You're never going to get that information. And I also feel the same way with the injury angle that they did. Let's say you don't watch the pre-show, and the first thing you do when you turn on the main card is realize MJF. You realize MJF is hurt. And the main event's in question. You'd be confused. You'd probably be a little annoyed. I think the pre-show is definitely very good. I just don't think it needs to add too many stories for the chance that if you don't watch it, now all of a sudden you're playing catch-up, coming to the main event. The only thing you actually advertise for the most part is the main event. I feel like AEW is really banking on the fact that you know and are watching the pre-show. Because if you're not, then all of a sudden you load up and you realize, oh, okay, so MJF's not here. That would be confusing. So thank God I watched it, or else I'd be confused as to why all of a sudden shit is hitting the fan for the main event. So, anyways, that's my 2 thoughts. But if we're talking about wrestling, and we're talking about professional wrestling, and we're talking about what we saw on TV, and the matches that we saw, can't go wrong with the pre-show. Everything there was fine. Eddie Kingston still has the belts, looks good. Buddy Matthews and Claudio Castagnoli, 2 unsung heroes of AEW, putting on a great show with no build, no interest. And that's all that was really needed to say. It was a good show. Whether you don't like the injury angle or not, MJF and the Guns look good. Samoa Joe looked good. That pre-show match was good. Everything about it was entertaining. Don't look at the injury angle, but if you look at the match itself, everything's fine there. I don't think there's any issues. I think the Guns have come a long way. They sell like no one else I've seen recently. I think that's a big thing for them. Samoa Joe still looks like a terror, looks like a legitimate threat to the title. And MJF still gets to hold the belt for his best friend. Adam Cole here, being ringside, being at this event, was a nice little touch as well. Definitely haven't seen him in a while. That will lead to some speculation as to, when we talk about things like who the devil is. But good to see him. Good to see that he got the surgeries. Looks a little tired. Grew his beard out a little straggly. But, good to see him. Good to be on the good way to kick off this pay-per-view. All right, let's get into the main card now. So, main card opens up. They're recapping the MJF injury. And again, I'm going to preface this again. This is on the they did the injury on the pre-show. If you open up and you just watch the pay-per-view, you're probably confused, you're a little concerned. So, they definitely want to recap what it was. It seems like such a big element, looking back on it, like watching the whole card now. It's such a big thing, but it happened on the pre-show. It seems a little odd. You could have probably done it on the main card, just as a shorter match, but again, I thought the pacing, it had to go there. It had to go on the pre-show. Just was weird. All of a sudden you log in, and all of a sudden if you don't watch 0 Hour, you're now questioning what the hell is going on. So, but immediately the first match on the main card is that 6-man match. You had Sting, Darby Allin, and Adam Copeland versus the Patriarchy of Christian Cage, Nick Wayne, and Luchasaurus. So starting off, Christian's entrance was funny. The singing was creepy. The kids were creepy. The whole thing definitely added to Christian Cage. He just looks psychotic, and if that's my heel for that TNT Championship, I'm for it. That's fine. He just looks funny. But then it got outdone by Sting, Copeland, and Darby's entrance. They all came out in the long jackets that Copeland used to wear when he was Edge. Sting also wore it. They all had baseball bats. And then Copeland came down in Darby Allin face paint. I think that was nice. It was kind of cool. It looked symbolic of the whole team. They all looked pretty good. And, if you're going to start the show, this is not a bad match to start with. I think I almost could have put that death match on first, but if you're going to put this match, this is not a bad call putting this match on first. It's enjoyable. Only thing, Ric Flair came out before all of the baby faces, and he's just dancing around in his little purple suit. It's Ric Flair. It's Ric Flair in 2023. I don't think he needs to be here. But if he's here, I just hope he doesn't do anything stupid. He didn't really do anything stupid in this match. It was a little odd at ringside, but I can live with it. While the match was setting up, they're pandering the audience. Kim Jong is there. You had Steve-O in the audience. And then Stephen Amell's there too. He was behind the announcers the whole time. And no one ever made mention that he was there. I'm an Arrow fan. I like him. Stephen Amell's great. And he was, pretty big when it comes to... He's been in wrestling before. He's been involved in it. So it's surprising that he wasn't sort of highlighted, but, I think it was good to see, especially being in LA. You're going to get stars that like wrestling. I think it's good to highlight that. Show the world that a lot of people like wrestling. So the match starts. It starts off Darby Allin, Nick Wayne. These two have good chemistry. They just do. That's gonna happen because it's Nick Wayne and Darby Allin knowing each other so well, but they're a good tandem together. I'm happy when you think about the level of talent in this match, and then you think, oh yeah, Nick Wayne's here too. You would probably think, oh, well, what is he gonna do? Well, Darby's there. Nick Wayne made Darby look good, and Darby made Nick Wayne look good. I was very happy with how they did. Couple other highlights from this match. Luchasaurus looks really strong. And I think they really want to make Luchasaurus still strong, having him already be now a former TNT champion. But Jesus, there was a bump that Darby took on the outside, on the apron, where he's just getting slammed. And I know he's got this whole thing where he's going to go climb Mount Everest, but my God, that looked painful. You can almost write Darby down anytime for one big, hard, rough-looking spot. And I think he's fine with that. And I think he wants to take those. I've heard him come out and say, oh, my body's fine. I don't have any issues. I think eventually he might start having issues. But again, I think that's up to Darby. Darby wants to do all these spots. Darby should be able to do these spots. I know that I think a lot of people will come out and say, oh, we want to make sure that his body's saved and his body's healed and he can go for a long time. Look, I don't know if Darby wants to go for a long time. I know Darby loves to wrestle. I know Darby loves being a part of AEW. I also know Darby loves doing crazy spots, dangerous spots, spots that actually hurt badly. And I think that's part of what makes Darby special. I think trying to save that, he realizes that that's a big thing he has for himself. So if he wants to keep doing those spots, I'm for it. I think that those wrestlers are allowed to make those decisions. You might not agree with those decisions, but those are decisions that Darby can make all on his own. And he took one here, and it looked convincing, and it also made Luchasaurus look like a monster. He looked so strong. They had him do a spot where Copeland and Sting, he had them by the throat. If I were to tell you 3 years ago that there was going to be a spot where Adam Copeland or Edge at that time was going to be part of AEW and Sting were going to be in the same ring and Luchasaurus was going to grab them by the throat and look tough versus them, you'd probably laugh in my face. But being with Christian has done great for Luchasaurus. He looks believable. He has him as his right hand of destruction. And I think that's good. I think the whole composition of the patriarchy is good. As I mentioned Ric Flair earlier, Ric Flair at one point during this match too, just is walking around confused. It looks like someone tells him to go to the side, and because he had a spot with Nick Wayne where Nick Wayne did the impersonation of his dance and flipped him off. But for a good 3 minutes, Ric Flair is just waddling around the ring in his bright purple suit. It wasn't super distracting, but he was there, and it was kind of weird just watching him walk around. Christian gets in the match. He looks good, doing great heel work. Definitely, him and Flair get into a little spat. Flair starts punching him. Christian knocks him down because he's, old as dust. So it wasn't as convincing, but it was there. And then, as the match is going bad, Copeland gets in the match. And every time Christian got in, he tried to get in, Christian would get out. Copeland's in, Christian's in. Christian runs away. Christian runs and books it all the way to the back, leaving his team, and Copeland ends up picking up the win, pinning Luchasaurus. I thought that was great. I'm happy with that. I love the fact that Christian does not want anything to do with Adam Copeland, is willing to leave his team and run away to the back to preserve himself. I think that's great. I think it was good. I thought this whole match was really good. I think the big overtone of the match was that this is one of Sting's last matches. Copeland got a nice reception, Darby got a nice reception, Sting got a nice reception, Darby got on the mic, put over Sting again. Another big sort of moment for Sting. And I think a good way to kind of end out the career. I feel they could have done the opposite, which is had Sting just try to put everyone over on the way out. But I think it's a nice segment. I think Sting getting that nice sort of end of retirement run. I don't think there's no way he wins any titles. There's no way he does anything other than these sort of big feuds that involve Darby. But I think these are nice. Sting didn't have to do a whole lot in this match. Him and Ric Flair get to hang out. Sting's happy. The match was good. And I think it was a good way to open the show. People love seeing Sting. People love seeing Darby. People love seeing Adam Copeland. People love hating Christian Cage. It's a recipe for success. I don't think anything can go wrong there. I don't think there's any issue with any of that either. I think it's just easy. I think it was a good match, and I think it definitely kind of sets up, what is going to happen next. I think Copeland still deals with Christian. I think that's a given. The only thing I question is, I wonder if they're just going to have Sting hang out with Copeland, because Darby apparently took a red eye to go try to climb Mount Everest or just prepare for it. So I'm assuming eventually he comes back and then he hangs out with Sting. But, maybe next week to week we just see him hanging out with Copeland. It's not a bad thing. No issues with that. But yeah, a great way to start off this match. From something that I really liked to something that I was again confused by, the next thing was right after this match, you have Tony Schiavone who's interviewing Bryce Remsburg. And I say interviewing because even though Remsburg didn't do a lot, he was there like he was about to give some knowledge, just to talk to people. So, Tony Schiavone comes out, he's got Bryce Remsburg there, and he basically explains that he's going to bring out Bullet Club Gold. He's going to bring out Jay White in particular, because he has an announcement. This is a small issue I have. I think there's issues on production. Because I mentioned earlier, not a big thing, it's just the little things that add up over time. The end of the pre-show, again I said, you see Austin Gunn in frame on the back of Adam Cole after the injury, just sort of lollygagging in the background. And then after this, you have the Bullet Club theme hit, but it's the Guns. The Guns don't come out. Jay White comes out. And Jay White makes reference to this, and he says a thing to Tony Khan that's like, wrong music. I think AEW has gotten better at their production, but things like this are weird. Things like this are stupid. You can't... Wrong music. Bad camera cut. Again, they're not big things, and I am nitpicking here a little bit. And I'm nitpicking because it's 4 years now in the company. That's 4 years, and these are still things I've noticed from the first year of AEW. Just bad production things. Not overwhelmingly bad, like it's end of the world, like this is unwatchable. Just things that are like, oh, it takes me out of it, you know? Wrong music, it's Jay White. Guns aren't anywhere to be found. Why are the Guns theme music playing? Why isn't Jay White's theme music playing? He's talking to Jay White. You know, little caveats like that are okay. So, it goes down, and now you have Jay White comes out, and Tony Schiavone's making the speech, and he basically says, well, MJF is too hurt to wrestle this match. He is not going to be able to compete. So, by default, the champion is going to be Jay White, and that's where he was going with it. Okay. So you're telling me the match that you sort of promoted to be the main event, your angle for this pay-per-view is that it's not happening? That was weird. And I'll be real honest, there was a part of me, and I am a Mark, that's why this is called Mark's World, guys. There's a part of me that was now upset. Because now, the next part was that the person who interrupted him was Adam Cole, with his giant 40-pound boot, came out and said, look, you're not just getting the belt, you're going to wrestle me in the main event. So now the new main event is for Jay White versus Adam Cole for the AEW World Champion. And like how MJF has been defending the tag titles, Adam Cole will be defending, and if he wins, MJF is the champion. Trying to unpack that sort of plan is just weird and it doesn't make a lot of sense. First of all, if MJF can't wrestle, you sure as shit Adam Cole can't wrestle, okay? Like, MJF, they don't never explain what the injury is, they just say he hurt. Like, they just kind of, he sells the leg, sells the knee. So, if the guy who has an undisclosed injury can't wrestle, then the guy who just had 2 surgeries should also not wrestle. You know, and I don't think, at some part, everyone kind of realizes that Adam Cole is not going to wrestle Jay White. There's no way. And, you know, MJF is coming back. But why go this far with it? If you're going to do the injury angle, just have MJF be hurt. Just don't have him leave the building. Just have a backstage segment of him talking about his being hurt. Him hurting his leg. Making it more believable for Jay White to win. Why go as far as to say MJF is out, Adam Cole is now in the main event, the dude with 2 ankle surgeries. And, yeah, that's what it is. That was confusing. And that was weird, and that took me out of it a little bit. So, as far as we know, in the story, Adam Cole is now fighting Jay White. One-leg man versus a dude who is full-blown heel and actively probably planned to take out MJF earlier. So this is just sounding like a squash, or it should be. And that's kind of where I think it was going, and they were trying to tell, but I don't know. I do not hate the idea of having an injury here. You can do an injury if you really do want to have the story of MJF overcoming the injury. You don't need to go so far that you take MJF out of the building and you make a new main event with Adam Cole and Jay White. To go that far really makes it sound like it made me think that they were about to amputate MJF's leg. That's how bad they were really trying to put over how bad this injury was to him. And all of a sudden, your new main event is now Adam Cole and Jay White. And you could tell from the reaction that they were kind of behind Adam Cole here, but they were not as thrilled with this matchup. This was one of the times where the crowd was like, okay, I guess that's what we're doing. I guess I'm watching it since I'm here. So yeah, that's where that sits. So from that promo and that sort of explanation as to now what's going on in the main event, we get a title match. We had Jon Moxley and Orange Cassidy for the International title. And while this match was starting up, I was thinking, it's crazy how by pure happenstance these two are together and how good these guys have chemistry together. They look good together. Jon Moxley makes Orange Cassidy look really good as a champion. And Orange Cassidy makes Jon Moxley look like a world beater. I am very happy with this, and I'm very happy with both of them. Going into this match, I thought they could have put the belt back on Moxley because they may have just tried to rewrite what just happened after Orange got hurt, and then you give it to Moxley. Orange drops the belt to Moxley. He didn't get hurt. He was selling the hurt. Moxley actually gets hurt versus Phoenix, and then Phoenix has the belt. But Phoenix is already hurt, so Phoenix has to drop back to Orange, and now we're back here. So a big merry-go-round of what's happening. And out of all of that, we got a really good match out of it. Orange Cassidy came out with Hook. Moxley came out with Wheeler Yuta. Still kind of continuing on those two. I'm assuming we're probably going to get a Wheeler Yuta versus Hook FTW title match. Should be interesting. Fast start. I think Moxley came out in this match just beating Orange down. Just physical, straight violence. Moxley early on was not really selling a lot for Orange. And I think that did make him look like, oh my god, he's going to just destroy him again. We're just going to go back to the first match. The crowd was really behind Orange Cassidy here. Orange Cassidy goes a little dark, starts doing some more headbutts, doing some biting, kind of turning Moxley's own game on against him. And again, this just goes to their chemistry here. They just worked really well together. They look great. They both make each other better. And this match and this title feel more important now because of this match. Plain and simple. I've heard some people talking about, oh, well, like, injury prone to the international title, and the international title has lost the prestige. Not anymore. Not in the weeks coming after this match. This belt feels awesome now. This little feud was great. Moxley, of course, got some color, so if you had that on your bingo card, probably almost a free space at that point, but looked good. The story was always good in this match, too. You have Orange Cassidy. Orange Cassidy had a lot of good moments and big moments in this match, but they were always died down by Moxley being overly physical and dominant up until the end. And it really did tie into that story of Orange Cassidy really has to go above and beyond to try to put Moxley down. Because anything less of perfection was not going to do it. And I think they did that really well together here. it was toward the end, it was a lot more back and forth. Offense was good. Moxley's own unique selling is really good here. He basically was punch drunk. I don't know if anyone kind of thought about this, but he kept getting just repeated orange punches, and I think they made it look like it took 7 of them to get him down. And I don't think that hurts Orange Cassidy. I think his orange punch is fine. I think it just is like, oh my god, Jon Moxley is insane, and he's heavy, and he's strong. So, he's acting punch drunk, getting hit by all of this. Eventually, finally, toward the end of what seemed like a grueling match, Orange Cassidy picks up the W. About 7 orange punches eventually put him down. And then at the end of the match, they talk about Wheeler Yuta bumping Hook, probably setting up that match like I was talking about. Except the camera missed the cut, so if you watched it, you didn't see it. They just heard him, oh my god, I think Yuta bumped Hook. And I'm watching, and I rewatched, I could not find it, so they just missed it there. So, not too bad. But again, this match was really good. I think a lot of people going into this match knew this match was really good, and I think it lived up to those expectations. If you're worried about where the international title picture is, you don't need to. Orange Cassidy's got it. They can go so many angles here. They can run back a third between these guys at World's End. I don't think anyone would be upset at that, and everyone would just say, take my money. They could get Orange Cassidy new title challengers, and that would be fine. And have Moxley go do something else. I think everyone looked good in here in this match. I don't think Moxley needed to win the international title. I think Moxley at AEW is great because he doesn't need a title to be great and be a front runner. You could put Moxley in a world title match tomorrow and you would believe it. You could have him in the TNT picture. You could have him in an international picture. You could have him in the tag, the trios. You could have him do anything. And you believe it because it's Jon Moxley. And he's built that reputation for himself here. And I think keeping the belt with Orange just keeps cementing Orange as another one of those big players. Trying to get to that level of Moxley. If not, he's already there. And you can have him hold on to this belt forever. Or you can have him drop it to another up-and-coming star and have Orange do other stuff. I think this just reset everything that everyone was confused about a couple weeks ago, a couple months ago. People wondering what the hell's going on with the international title. People don't know what's going to go on, what they're going to do. Well, I tell you what they're going to do. They could just strap it to Orange Cassidy and it could just be his title forever. And that would be fine. And I think people would be okay with that. They can have him drop to Moxley in a bit, and people would be happy for Moxley. The international title is fine. I think now what you should do is if you are going to keep it with Moxley, just make it a stipulation match in the third one. Like a 2 out of 3 falls. You could even do a death match if you really want to. Since the death match did so well in this card, and I'll get to that here in a second. But you can basically do whatever you want. And if you aren't going to go with Moxley as the next title challenger, then just get some new guys. You know? We talked about 2 guys on the pre-show. Claudio Castagnoli and Buddy Matthews. Orange has already wrestled them. You can just keep having those matches, or build those in the longer feuds. That'd be great. But again, I think International Championship is fine. I think the only thing that would ever derail it is if you just keep having jobbers for the title for like 7 weeks. I think just keep it in a feud. Keep it with Moxley, make a new feud for Orange or whatnot. But this match was great. Anyone who says it doesn't was clearly not watching this match. This was great storytelling. This was great wrestling. It was great contrast of styles. And I think everybody comes out of this looking like a winner. Plain, simple, good match. One of my favorite matches on the card. So we're gonna keep the show keeps with the theme of match, backstage promo, match. Now here's a backstage promo. And it's Jay Briscoe. Now Jay Briscoe is throwing his name into the Continental Classic. So he is one of the competitors in the Continental Classic. And trust me, this will not be the last time we talk about the Continental Classic, but I just want to think about this real quick. I like Jay Briscoe. Does Jay Briscoe have a chance in hell to win? Absolutely not. There's no clue. if you look at who's in the Continental Classic up until this point, Andrade's in, Bryan Danielson's in, and Jay Briscoe's in. One of these things is not like the other. And I will hope, as we learn more about the Continental Classic, that we get more, like, higher-end people in this tournament to make it feel believable. Because they did hype this tournament as stars versus stars. And I'm not saying Jay Briscoe can't be a star, but I'm saying, compared to Bryan Danielson and Andrade, he's not. So, good for Jay. He's going to have a match. I'm assuming he's probably losing to someone in the first round. It's starting Wednesday. We later know other people that get into the match. But assuming he's probably fighting either Andrade, Bryan Danielson, or, spoiler, Eddie Kingston, it's probably a loss. So, good for Jay. Get some TV time. It's interesting. Wasn't the name I was expecting when they were talking about the 12 people who were going to be in this match, but, you know, it's not the worst name. They could have just picked up actual random people at will and thrown them into the tournament. So, this is fine. It's interesting. I have questions about the tournament, but trust me, I'll have more questions when we get to the other promo. So, we'll go from there. We have another match. The trend continues. This one's for the Women's World Championship. The AEW Women's World Championship. Shida versus Timeless Toni Storm. And I think there was a little precursor to this match because as Toni was coming out, they flashed someone in the crowd, and it said Toni Storm equals money. So it just had money signs. I don't think a truer statement could have been made during this pay-per-view. She is your biggest star in the women's division right now. So, the match was good. Starts off, Toni Storm has her script. She rips it up, so she's going off script, guys. Shida also gets some good offense, though, in the beginning. She had some really strong chops. As the match is going on, there's a good back and forth. Toni looks great. Toni with her whole character looks awesome. Shida looks amazing. I wish Shida was as big of a star as Toni is. I don't know if she is right now, but I would put Shida right up there. Because you're talking about who might be the GOAT of AEW Women's Division. If it's not Shida, I would like to see an alternative argument. I don't think she's the biggest star. No, I don't believe that at all. I think Britt, Toni, Jamie Hayter, those are probably your top stars. But as someone who's day in, day out, one of the best wrestlers on that roster, and who does the most, it's Shida. Flat out. Match was good back and forth. We get a Mariah Murray backstage as you watch her just watching Toni Storm, like fangirling out. And that'll be interesting, so I like to see those two together. Toni starts getting a lot of good offense in, and all of a sudden, this is when I started to hear the crowd really get behind Toni Storm. We cut back, more Mariah May backstage just watching on. Shida also got some good reactions, I have to add, though. Both of these women, for this match, got really good reactions, and I was very happy with that. I hear all this talk, the women's division isn't that good, the women's division is blank, the women's division is insert some sort of offhand, backhanded compliment insult. The women's division is great. The women's division needs more time, it needs more stories, it needs more matches, but the division is fine. The division is good. I think getting more eyes on it comes from them actually booking more matches. But the women's division is good. And I think that was evident by not only this match, but the TBS title match as well. People like the women's division. The women's division is good. It's got good characters. It's got some good stories. It's got some good action. The problem is, you just don't always see it all the time. I think having more matches is always good for the women's division. So just keep doing that. People like everyone in the women's division. Whether that's Toni Storm, whether that's Shida.
Whether that's Chris Statlander, whether that's Julia Hart, whether that's Sky Blue. You have Willow Nightingale in there. Saraya. You know, I think all of them are good. I think all of them, you gotta just give them more time. Because when they do have time, they put off good matches like this. Again, good back and forth in this match. The end of this match was a little funky, but I was more happy with the match. That this is something you can easily doesn't as important. But Toni has this little, I don't know, what is it, little tray of her trinkets, her jewelry, like her little little station where she puts all that stuff in the corner with Luther, the butler. So she grabs a shoe at first and tries to hit her, and Toni is clearly trying to cheat a little bit here. But then in the end, there's like a bedpan. It's not a bedpan, or it's like some giant ladle or some giant flat dish. It's some sort of dish. Let's just say dish, it's just easier. So she puts it in her trunks, and then she does her hip attack. The only problem is that you can clearly see the pan. I think even Taz made a note of it. That, you can see it sticking out of her pants. But Aubrey Edwards missed this somehow. So, again, not the end of the world, but just a little funny thing. She uses the bedpan with the hip attack, pins Shida. Timeless Toni Storm is your new women's champion. After the match, Mariah May came down. She gave her flowers. I thought a good thing here was that, and kind of a note for the show as a whole, the commentary was really good, but I think Nigel really stole the show. This show, pun intended. He definitely was doing some great work on the mic, but at the end of this match, he starts trying to cry because he's so happy. And I think that was great. That was a nice little touch. So yeah, so Timeless Toni Storm is your new AEW Women's Champion. And I mean, I think this is good. I think I can see why they put the belt on Toni. I think Toni is your biggest star. So you are going to give her the belt. You have Mariah May with her now too, which will be a kind of fun little tandem. It'll be interesting. I think Toni being the champion definitely makes it interesting, and I think she can put on a lot of matches, a lot of good matches. She can get in some good rivalries. She can kind of go back to things with the Outcasts if she wants. Hopefully, maybe Britt Baker returns. We get Britt Baker versus Toni Storm, which would be good. I'm not sure what's going on with Thunder Rosa, but Thunder Rosa versus Toni Storm would be good. And then at the end of the line, in a couple months, hopefully Jamie Hayter comes back. I think Hayter's been a big part missing of the women's division of late. So hopefully she comes back, and that could be another feud. You can also have Chris Statlander. Not to spoil what's to come, but that's also an option for you. And then for Shida, I mean, Shida is Shida. I would have liked Shida to win here. I felt AEW would have had a chance to maybe make 2 stars instead of 1. Because Toni Storm is a star. Her being a standalone star without the belt kind of proves that she maybe always doesn't need it. But I don't think putting the belt on her is a bad idea. Short reign for Shida. But again, I like Shida. I think Shida can be very believable. I think Shida's a great wrestler. So, would have maybe liked to see Shida have it longer, but I do hope that if you are going to keep the belt with Toni Storm, you keep it on her a little bit. I think some stability in all of AEW's divisions is not a bad thing. I think you can do quick title reigns and go from there, bounce around. But at some point, you're going to want some decent title reigns. I mean, the women's division went from basically Toni Storm, then to Saraya, then to Shida, and now it's back to Toni Storm in what seems like half a year. If you are going to stick it with Toni Storm, give her a nice title reign, give her some good matches, give her some good feuds. She can carry a lot of feuds on her own if she wants to. And I think it's definitely worth it for her to do. So, definitely have some stability. Other than that, it's the highlight of the women's division, I think, here. It's a good division. Just needs more time. Needs more time. It needs more stories. That's it. The top of the AEW Women's Division is great. Good wrestlers. Good mic work. Good characters. Only thing that's missing is you just got to do something with them. You know, I remember, I think it was a while back, I think AEW had posted, they did that vignette with the Doja Cat song with the women's division, and I think the number one comment was, oh, that's cool, now book them better. And again, I think there's nothing wrong with the women's division, but I think there is a point to that. Give them more time. More matches, better matches, and you have a star in Toni Storm, so keep showing the world that she's a star, and this division is fine. More time. I think any division would say that, but definitely the women's. Keep doing good, more time with them. Keep having multiple matches. Keep having them have character development and good work, and all of a sudden, before you know it, no one's going to be saying the AEW women's division is bad. Everyone's going to be talking about it as one of the better divisions in AEW. Plain and simple. So after this, we get another backstage promo. Honestly, this was a little on the nose of redundancy, but not in a bad way. It just was very funny to me, realizing it like, oh, you got match, promo, match, promo, match, promo. All of them backstage, all of them talking. So this time it's Eddie Kingston. Eddie Kingston was reviewed by Renee. Following his match, she asked him what's next. He said, of course. So you know what's next. The Continental Classic. Eddie Kingston was another name I did not have entering this tournament, but here he is. So he talks about being in the tournament. He's entering, but not only is he entering, the winner of the tournament will now be, he's putting his belts on the line, folks. The winner of the tournament will be the New Japan Strong Openweight Champion, and it'll be the Ring of Honor Champion at the end, in what he calls being a modern triple crown winner at the end of this tournament. Which I think was interesting, because I was thinking going into the show, well, what are they winning? What is going to be the end result of this? So this is what it is. I have some thoughts here on this. I don't hate this. I think it's kind of cool. I'm definitely intrigued, because now there's a lot on the line. So obviously, I'm going to want to pay attention to the matches. And I think it'll be good. As long as everyone who's in it is good, it'll be interesting. I am confused as to what exactly the person is winning. And I know that sounds stupid, but hear me out. So you have the New Japan Strong Openweight Championship. That's one. You got the Ring of Honor World Title. That's two. And they want this to be a Triple Crown. So I'm guessing the winner of this also gets a belt. A belt would make sense if there's going to be Triple Crown. Which, say what you want, I don't think they need another belt. I don't think they need to do something here. But also, are these all going to be separate? Or are these going to be identical? Or are these going to all become one title? I might be reading too much into this. I'm just very confused. Because trying to decipher what exactly they're winning, is it all three belts? Is it one new belt that combines all three of them? I hope it's not that. Because then all of a sudden you have a Ring of Honor World title gone from Ring of Honor, which I don't think Ring of Honor really needs right now, but it's weird. So, anyways, that's the big takeaway from the tournament, is now not only is there going to be a tournament to determine the winner of the Continental Classic, but the winner of the Continental Classic will get the Strong Openweight Championship, the Ring of Honor World title, and some third other belt thing to be a Triple Crown winner. I like the idea of the tournament meaning a lot and having a lot of impact and doing that stuff. It just seems weird because I don't know all the people involved in the tournament yet. But then, will the winner of this they'll be just a champion in all three? Or will they just be the champion of the Continental Classic who now has one combined championship to represent all three? So, and in which case, if that is the winner, they get
three separate things. We're going to have a 3-time champion at the end of this tournament. And what is he going to do with all those belts? How's he going to defend all those belts? It's a little much. But again, I'm happy. They got me hooked. I am entertained. I will watch this. So, recapping real quickly who's in it. We have Andrade. We have Bryan Danielson. We have Jay Briscoe. And we have Eddie Kingston. It'll be interesting to see who the final 8 participants are. Here's hoping that it is going to be either higher up people on the card, because I would hope that they do want to overpack this tournament. I think one thing that would be great for AEW is get your top guys in this tournament. Because if not, have them do the tournament, have them wins, losses, determine who's going to get there, and then from that you can have the fallout of different feuds and what they need to do. Okay? Make this feel important, because right now, I mean, feels like the winner's just going to be Bryan Danielson. Which, you know, good for Bryan Danielson. Glad that he's in it. Somebody who doesn't really need it at all. If anything, Andrade needs this more. But I just can't imagine Andrade as Ring of Honor World Champion. That just seems odd. And that's not a knock on Andrade, that's more of a knock on Ring of Honor. That just seems kind of like, oh, he did a side quest in his meantime, and all of a sudden now Andrade's Ring of Honor World Champion. So, it'll be interesting. I'm excited. I'm confused. I hope more will be explained this coming Wednesday. I don't know what the fuck is going on. And following the pattern, we now have a ladder match. The ladder match, yes. For the tag team titles. I will say TNT title. I don't know why. But for the tag team titles, in a ladder match. And when I saw this was going to be a ladder match, I was really excited. This felt like a match that, especially for multiple tag teams having a ladder match, I think it's great. I think it's great. I love everything about it. I love how it was set up with Ricky Starks and Big Bill calling it. And it did not disappoint. Let me tell you, I was into this match. I don't think anyone looked bad in this match. I think everyone got good reactions, and I think keeping the belts, spoiler here, is that we're going to have Ricky Starks and Big Bill win these titles. But the match itself was great. Everyone came out to their own entrance. House of Black, again, great entrance. LFI looked great. Starks was super over when he came out. People were happy to see Starks. And I think it's because Starks is also a star. So, AEW, keep that guy. Please. Whatever you do, keep that guy. If there's one guy other than MJF that you want to keep on this roster long term, it's Ricky Starks. Because Ricky Starks is a star. You can see it by people who probably react to him. Good wrestler, good on the mic. A guy that people want to work with is Ricky Starks. And for obvious reasons. He's great. People were happy to see him. I felt it was weird. The first visual I saw, the belt seemed really low, but then all of a sudden I realized they were much higher up by a different camera angle. The camera must have been aiming down a little bit because it looked like at one point Bill or Brody could have just jumped up and grabbed them. So I was happy to see that. But they were much higher. A lot of action in this. One thing I do want to highlight is Roosh. Roosh felt like a star in this match. And you got the sense after he came back, I like Roosh, but he had the match earlier this week with Dax Harwood, and people were chanting, they wanted Roosh, and it was very clear they were happy with him. And he got quite a few spots in this, and they felt very happy to see Roosh. And trust me, Roosh, again, there's a guy if you want to add to the Continental Classic. Have him win. He looks great. I know he's with LFI, and I know he's with Dralistico right now, but, man, he hits hard. He looks intimidating. He has good in-ring presence. Everything about him seems good. One thing, I did think it was weird sometimes at the beginning of ladder matches, and I think this is not a critique, but this is just a natural thing that happens, is that you have to in a ladder match, you're going to slowly build up the intensity, slowly bring up them climbing the ladder. But at one point, everyone was out of the ring, and then Dralistico was in the ring, just by himself. Ladder was already up, and he said, screw it, and ran and did a suicide dive. I think that's always funny. I don't have a problem with that. It's just the way the match goes. Those matches go sometime. But I thought that was a little funny thing. Brody King and Big Bill have a nice standoff, and they had a nice little back and forth in this match a lot, being the two bigger guys. And they were really kind of showcasing that prior to the pay-per-view. But they look great. Again, I think if you're going to talk about, there's a couple names you can put in having one of the best years in AEW. I think one of them's got to be Big Bill. Big Bill looks great. Whether he fits his role perfectly, he's convincing, he's good, and he bounces off of Ricky Starks really well. So him and Brody had a nice back and forth. They just kept doing everything they needed to do. A cool spot was, I didn't even think this was possible. You had Malachi Black. He slingshotted the ladder off the ropes into somebody. I don't remember who, but I think it might have been Dax. But the ladder, I'm trying to tell you this. It's on the ropes on the side of the ring, inside the ring. Malachi is next to it. Somebody, and I want to say Dax, I'm just going to say it was Dax, was running back to him, and he yanked the rope, and it flew at what felt like Mach 2 into Dax. And it was amazing. That's a great creative spot. I really love that. And you can tell because the crowd was getting into it. We had This Is Awesome chants, we had AEW chants. Everyone looked really good. There's a lot of spots toward the end of the match where they were just doing big spots. Brody had a big spot. Cash had a big spot. Malachi had a nice spot. Ricky Starks when Ricky Starks seemed like he got in and just had his little 3 to 4 minutes. Looked great. Everyone was super high behind him. Crowd loved this. I loved this. AEW loved this. And AEW should do more of this. I think in the tag division, especially, and this is just me, but there is something to be said about having good singles matches, but we've seen a lot of one-on-one matches, whether that's tag teams, trios, singles, whatever you want to call it. This was great. You had 4 teams in here that none of them they all felt believable as champions. I could have seen House of Black winning this. I could have seen LFI winning this. I could have seen FTR winning this. When you have a lot of good guys, and I think every division of AEW has a lot of top talent, doing matches, having 4-ways, having 3-ways, these are all good ways for matches. And I think that's going to tie in probably to into the next match a bit with the TBS one. It's just a good match. Highlight all these guys. They all look great. Really happy with it. Big spots. So Stark and Big Bill win the match. Nice little end here. They had kind of 3 ladders. Everyone represented on each team was up there at one point. Came down to Ricky Starks and Cash Wheeler up there. And both hit each other. Ricky Starks falls back, but he's caught by Big Bill. That's a nice little sentiment. And then he gets back up, knocks down Cash Wheeler, takes the titles. And I liked how Ricky Starks took the title and he just dropped it and it just went right to Big Bill's hands. And Ricky Starks got the title on top. Again, this is great. I think you can have multiple matches with different combinations of these guys and everyone is going to be happy with it.
Obviously, we had the other match on the card that was the Golden Jets versus the Young Bucks with title shot implications. So it'll be interesting to see that team. So obviously, that's what's going to be next. But again, tag division AEW is great. Whether you like tag team wrestling or not, you cannot deny that the best tag team wrestling is probably this division. Everyone feels great. A lot of teams. Everyone's good. I see some people that were who like tag teams though a lot, vice versa of that first point. We're saying that you have the two single wrestlers in Bill and Starks being champions. It's a good change of pace. And here's the thing, they're good together and they look like champions. So there's no problem with that. Everything there is good. I would love to see them. I love the fact that they did retain because there's a lot of different teams they can go against. If they want to go back to doing one-on-ones, there's more tag teams they can go to. There's different combinations that they can go to, and it's still good. So this was good. Moved along the tag division, and it felt really interesting, and I was very happy with it. So no complaints on this. If anything, I'm just happy so many tag teams were able to shine. Everyone, I couldn't think of one team that looked outmatched in that. FTR had that whole veteran thing going on. House of Black still looks intimidating. Brody King looks insane. You could have Brody King being a single star. And then Malachi Black also a single star. But Brody King really came off in this match looking great. And then you had LFI. LFI looks great too. Roosh definitely is the biggest star out of there. And would probably expect him to have some more single success. If they want to go that way. Because they have that option. But yeah, I think it was good. I think it definitely was a lot. But I think everything about it, hey, you got a great match out of it. And you got a ladder match. I would love more ladder matches. I'm always going to be happy with the ladder match. Especially when you have those teams in there that are so good. And then from the ladder match, we go to the TBS Championship match. Chris Statlander, Julia Hart, Sky, and Blue. And this match was good. I was happy with this match. I'm not going to sit here and say that this is like the best match on the card. It was not. But for what they did and what the story they told in this match, it's pretty good. Pretty good. I was happy with it. Sky Blue comes out. She has new music. Comes out in the baseball cap. Throws it to the ground. Crushes it. And now puts on a crown. Sort of solidifying this sort of more heel turn for her. And it worked. I thought it was good. I think one thing I saw going into this match that I was interested in is that there's only, of the three-way, there's only two people that could win. You could see Julia winning, and you could see Stat retaining. You couldn't really see Sky Blue winning. But I was happy that in the lead-up to this, they actually had Sky Blue do a promo. Wasn't fantastic, but it wasn't bad either. She was totally fine with that, and it was good. And I think this heel turn is going to be really good for her. An interesting thing I noticed before they start too, which leads into the match, was that now Julia Hart came out with red, Sky Blue obviously came out with blue, and Chris Statlander came out in purple in some dodgeball reference to the Cobra dodgeball team. And I thought that was good because that was kind of the story of this match. Was that Stat looked really dominant one-on-one versus both Sky Blue and Julia Hart. But when Sky Blue and Julia Hart worked together a little bit, they outpowered Statlander. And I think that was great. Stat looked really good opening in this match. Obviously, she was able to take down Julia. She was able to take down Sky. Only when Julia was able to take opportunities or work with Sky at times were they able to take out Chris. And I think that was great. I think that was really good because I think that's pretty accurate as to where they're at. We've already seen Julia Hart versus Chris Statlander one-on-one, and it was close, but Stat won, and I don't think anyone was too worried about Julia Hart winning at that point. And then we've seen, but now, two of them versus one. That's good storytelling. Good match. Julia Hart's come a long way. She's come a long way. She looks good. She looked good in this match. Nothing perfect. No perfect performance. But for 21 years old, she's been on TV for the last 2 years.
Looks pretty good. Looks pretty believable. I was happy with that. Julia Hart looked really solid. Sky Blue, the heel turn, she looked wild. Like, she looked feral. She was screaming up a storm in this match at everything. And she was going after Julia. She was going after Chris. She was really trying. There was some chants that said, "Let's go newbies," I think, during this match. And I think that was interesting because I think that's kind of where some people are, especially. We have a lot of young women in this division. And I think people are just happy to see them doing well. Especially if you want to keep growing that division. We talked about it when we talked about the women's championship, but more TV time obviously will always help them. But you have a very young undercard of women there. And I think people just want to see them succeed. And guess what? I think they succeeded here. I think this is a win for both Sky Blue and Julia Hart. They look good. And one of them got the actual win. We're going to get to that. Stat again comes back. She looks really good. She looks really strong. The ending to this match was good, but even more than that, it was very well executed. Chris Statlander powers bombs with Sky Blue. Sky Blue is in the process of getting pinned. So Stat starts the pin. They get to 1. Julia Hart comes out from the side and clotheslines Statlander, and then immediately goes for the cover on Sky Blue. 1, 2, 3. I thought that was very well done. And now Julia Hart is your new TBS champion. And I'll tell you what, I'm happy with that. And I'll tell you why. I think when you're looking at the TBS Championship, I think people saw the last pay-per-view match, which with with Stat and Julia Hart. People were starting to get behind Julia Hart. People were happy to see her. She looked good, but obviously Chris Statlander's on another level. It seemed like they did want to get the belt on Julia, and I think this is the best way to do it. Julia Hart comes out as champion, something that she needs, and something that not completely needs, but is good for her. She's really young, she's a little inexperienced, but she can hold that belt. We're not going to sit here and pretend that Julia Hart couldn't get that belt. Stat still looks good because Stat one-on-one beats both of these girls pretty easily. She still looks strong. She just got attacked at the last second, so Stat's still protected. And Sky Blue is Sky Blue. Sky Blue is in the middle of a heel turn. She looks interesting. Her story is interesting. This does something good for all the women. And I think more than that is a good and interesting opportunity for AEW with the TBS Championship. Kind of talked about it. I made a little reference to it when I was talking about the women's division. But you can move Chris Statlander now, if you really wanted to the world title picture. And honestly, I think you could do that, and I think that'd be fine. Because it is now test time for the TBS women's title. What I mean by test time is that now, if you want to run it back with Statlander, you can. I don't think anyone's going to question that. I don't think anyone's going to be upset with that. You could do it one-on-one again and see where you go. You could, but by test time, I mean now you have Julia Hart as your champion. She's 21 years old. You have Sky Blue, who's now involved with this TBS championship, and she's in her 20s. You have Willow Nightingale, who's involved in this story in general. And you have 3 young women, 3 good wrestlers. I said great, you could say great, becoming great wrestlers. Involved in an actual world title that's nationally on TV. So your test time is going to be, can those women, those young women, hold that belt and make it interesting? And honestly, I'm all for it. See what happens. You could do a 3-way at World's End where you have Willow Nightingale, Julia Hart, and Sky Blue in it. And I think people will be intrigued. I think you have 3 very young but very talented individuals who could actually make that TBS title picture really interesting and really something to watch. And you could do that even if you move Statlander up to the women's world title. Because I think she would probably fit there. I think that's a good progression for Stat. She was TBS champion. She can easily fit into the women's world title as another challenger for Toni Storm and look good, potentially even win if she gets a good enough story, people get enough behind her. But the test time is here. I think AEW really want to see what they got with these younger women in their division. They'll test it out. Absolute worst case scenario, maybe it doesn't work. And in which case then, okay, you can back to the drawing board. They're still going to grow, they're still going to get better. So maybe it's a little early, but then you'll know. But, best case scenario, you catch fire. And now you have another talking point in the women's division now. But big props to Julia Hart in this match. She looked good. Again, we were talking about people who have been having great years. I mean, Julia Hart's been having one of the best years in AEW. She looks good. Character's good. She makes House of Black better. House of Black makes her better. She makes the women's division better. She's having all these good matches and learning experiences. And now she's a champion at the end of the year. It's a pretty good year. I think only everybody is more interested in to see what's to come. The crowd looked a little stunned by it, too, which was good. Use that sort of emotion and build a story with it. It'll be good. But I'm happy to see this. I think everyone was kind of more expecting Chris to retain. And I think this one a little bit for shock value. But don't take it the wrong way. This is not shock value in the bad way of, oh my god, how could they do this? This is shock value of like, whoa, I didn't see that coming. And I think Julia being the champion, be interesting. Again, test time. Let's see. See what you got. If it doesn't work, it doesn't work. But best case scenario right now, you might have a star in Julia Hart that now that she's champion can highlight that. Keep it going. And after that, after this nice match, another little break, which was good. A nice little break. But this one, no backstage segment. This is the new signing for AEW, the hyped up signing. And it's Will Ospreay. And everyone was ecstatic. There was a lot of weird reporting on this, I saw. I think people, at least online, just don't always believe Tony Khan with some of these big sorts of deals. So, definitely there were some underwhelming reviews. I think there were clearly people that it should be. And I think Will Ospreay was the name it should have been, and everyone's happy that it is. AEW having Will Ospreay is amazing. Again, another great signing. It's sort of the same way I felt when they got Jay White. It's a big star. It's maybe one of the biggest stars in New Japan. If not their biggest star. Him coming over, there was a lot of reporting that, he was interested. AEW seemed like the logical choice, but he was talking to WWE, talking to Impact. But he's in AEW, and I think that's great. He was excited, and I think we got two important information from this signing. One, he was talking to the crowd, and he said, I'm still underpaid with New Japan. He's under contract till February. But then he said he'll be on the road to Revolution, which I think is big. I think knowing that will be interesting. So now we can look forward to that in the coming months, that, it's around February. Will Ospreay is going to be here now. And then two, told Coney to book the show for Wembley Stadium. Which again, if you look back on this last year, Will Ospreay being at Wembley Stadium was amazing. That reaction that he got was undeniably the, if not top two, biggest reactions of the night. With the first one probably being the main event. This is big for AEW. It's big. I don't think there's a way you can downplay how important Will Ospreay is and how big of a star he is. Big enough star that WWE really wanted to get him. I think WWE is probably upset they didn't get him because you're talking about a guy who's in his 30s who probably going to get at least another 10, 12 years. I can see him wrestling to 40, 42. Probably won't wrestle that long. Might end up wrestling a little bit shorter than that. But again, big star.
who, the minute he comes in, could be a title contender. She can just show up probably and be believable as the next title contender. But again, big signing. Can't be understated how big that was. And thankfully for AEW, this was the signing, because I saw some things that people were about to start questioning some booking decisions if it was anything less than either Will Ospreay or Mercedes Moné. Or Julia, I saw some of that too. But good signing, big thing for AEW, big thing for Will Ospreay. I think Will Ospreay likes being in AEW. I think being on weekly TV is something he wants to do. I think he had that option wherever he went, and he could be a big star, but he's happy with it. I think it's good for him. So many matches. We can speculate all day long who's going to go up against. But for right now, just be happy that he's here. He was allowed to negotiate the contract early. He was allowed to talk. So then we know what he's doing. We know when he's coming in. And we know that he's going to be a major factor the minute he steps through those doors. Good for them. All right, I got to take a breath here because the next match on this card was the best match of the night. I don't want to hear any. I don't want to hear any complaints or anybody saying, "Well, no, it was this." No. Hangman, Swerve Strickland, the best match on the card, the best match at Full Gear, and it's not even close, in my opinion. It's the best match. It was a lot to deal with, but it was the best match. There's a lot of good matches on the card. I'm not saying there really weren't any bad matches on this card, but this was the best. Swerve Hangman also have probably the best feud. I can see Moxley and I can see Orange Cassidy being an argument there, but this was a really, really good feud. And I think it culminated exactly in how you wanted it to. This is a brutal, angry feud that could only be settled with a lot of blood. And oh my god, there was a lot of blood. Swerve comes out. You know, they gave Prince Nana dancers, which I think was good for him. He got to do his dance. Everyone was happy for that. Swerve comes out, and then he's, setting up. And then Hangman just runs down and starts beating him. No music. I think that's great. We don't need the whole Hangman entrance. We love the Hangman entrance, but that was symbolic of this match. Hangman just wanted to go and start beating him. Hangman starts really beating him too. He starts bringing out tape, and he starts bringing out the staple gun. I gotta talk about the staple gun. Someone sent me something that were saying that staples were too much. I could not disagree more. These staples were the best part of this match. He taped Swerve's hands together, started whacking him, started beating him, cut him open. Swerve was bleeding a lot, too. Started stapling this man. Took the picture Swerve broke down, stapled it to his face. It was a lot. It was hard to watch. And I think what's interesting watching it is that as Hangman is doing this, the crowd was not behind Hangman here. Not the man whose house got broken into, whose child was talked to by, a psychopath. No, Hangman came off as the heel here, and people were ready to cheer Swerve Strickland. And then Swerve gets up. I'm believing, in my mind, I interpret it as he's just numb to the pain because he got stapled like 10 times. Takes the staple gun, staples Hangman, and then staples himself and throws the gun away. Oh my god, that was one of the best moments of the whole night. People didn't like the staples, but people just don't. I don't know what these people like that. Because that was the best thing on the card. That was one of the best moments. You could hear the pop that moment got. Oh, and then it just got so intense. I think before the staple gun, you had the moment where Hangman turned to a vampire and just started drinking the blood that was coming off of Swerve's face. Oh my gosh. Swerve goes and gets a cement block. Does a move on the outside. That looked like it hurt.
Oh my gosh. Yeah, that was rough. And it just kept building. There were so many things that came out. We had barbed wire. We had barbed wire chairs. That's another one. Just, it was a vicious. There were spots outside. There were spots on the railing. This felt like a fight that two men who truly hate each other had. And I think that's what it needed to live up to. And it lived up to it and surpassed it in many ways. With this match, there was a lot of downtime between some big spots, and that's fine. And I was fine with that. Man, some of the spots, if you haven't seen it, go back and watch it. That's a hardcore match dream. And even if you don't like hardcore matches, you can't deny that that's the type of match that you would get if you had a psychotic cowboy and a dude who broke into his house and thought for a second felt like he was going to steal his child. That's what it was. That's what you got. Ooh. The ending to this too, I really like. Because you get to the end, there's only so much that you can build. And I think it got to the point where it's like, okay, I don't know where they're gonna go from this. And then Brian Cage come down. And Brian Cage, I don't know about this, just a little note about Brian Cage. Brian Cage has been having a great month. He looks good. I'm happy, he's believable. He comes down, he starts beating Hangman. A good thing on commentary brought up the rivalry that Brian Cage and Hangman Page have, which is great. Because that's good, that's kind of a good callback there. He comes down. Swerve, at this point in the match, looks like he's a bit hurt. He looks like he's tired. Looks like Hangman's going to get the upper hand. Cage comes down, does some damage. Page takes out Cage. Right there. Little tongue twister. Then Page goes after Prince Nana. And he dead-eyes him through a table. And then right after that, after Page does that, he gets hurt. Swerve gets him, attacks him, gets the cinder block, and launches it at him. Page goes down. Swerve gets chains and hangs Hangman in the same way that Hangman hanged Moxley. Ends the match. Swerve Strickland is your winner. And guess what? Swerve Strickland is your new top contender and should be your next champion. This man has come out the best this year. I was already making a mention to how good Big Bill and Julia Hart were this year. But it is kind of the year of Swerve. Swerve is now done with Hangman. Seems obvious that we have Samoa Joe being the next challenger at World's End. That seems to be the next time he gets the shot. And then after that, I think it's Swerve. I don't see a way you don't do it. If you don't do it, I think you mistake. Big mistake if you don't do that. The Swerve comes out super, super over in this. The crowd were getting behind him. And I think the crowd forgot that he was the one that started this and started this feud and broke into Hangman's house. And they were cheering him. Because whose house is it? It's Swerve's house. And it felt like Swerve's house at Full Gear. Whether or not, whatever happens at World's End, I think that title should, in the next coming months, end up on Swerve. He's been in great feuds. He looks like $1 million. He has a great presence. He's got good wrestling skills. He can do different types of matches. He can tell a story in his matches and on the mic. What more do you want? What more do you want in a challenger and a champion? I think it's Swerve. And also the thing is with the finish, Hangman doesn't look that bad at all. He doesn't look bad. You can talk about the interference of Cage coming down, Prince Nana and all that. Hangman doesn't look that bad. Hangman looks like a man who went out there and gave it his all and lost due to interference because of, Swerve's henchmen. He looks fine. And Hangman is now more interesting than he's been in the last couple months. I was thinking about this leading into the pay-per-view, of that, when Hangman lost the belt to Punk,
it was weird because it was an odd place that he went into and where he went. He obviously had a great feud with Moxley. And then kind of was just around until like the Elite reformed. Now he's back then. And now he's back doing this. And I think Swerve's promo was a real indicator of that. Look, he lost the title, had a good back and forth with Moxley, and then was just kind of around to fill that hole. Because now Hangman, I feel like, comes out and I want to see him do well now. I want to see him get back into the title picture. I want to see him work back up. That's what he's good at, and that's what he's proven to be the best at. Have Hangman do what he's good at. Have Hangman work his way back up to the title. Then if you have the belt on Swerve, then you can do the third match, and that's going to be one of the best matches of the year. Even if it's early on in the year. I think that's great. I don't think anyone was hurt. And another little caveat, again, it's Celebrities Night, and Stephen Amell, behind the announce desk, after that match, I saw him verbally mouth, wow. Wow is right. Wow at how good Swerve is. Wow at how good Hangman Adam Page is. Wow, because that death match was intense. And wow, it's the best match on the card. Plain and simple. It is not easy, probably, either to follow that match. And the match we had after that, we had no promo in between. If anything, we had a small recap again of the injury. And I was really happy with that match, and then I got reminded of the injury for the main event, and I was back to being upset. This was the idea that they went with for the show. Just is what it is. So I was going to get the same. But I remember I was like, oh my god, can't believe that match. And then I got recapped of the injury, and I was like, oh yeah, great. We're going to end with that. Fantastic. But right after that then, we had the match that was between the Golden Jets and the Young Bucks. So, and as I was saying, this match, I mean, you had Swerve and Hangman go out there and bleed for what felt like forever. Bleed forever. This was not an easy match to follow. I think the EVPs took a bullet on this card because anything that follows that death match the crowd is gonna be tired. And the crowd was tired in this match. They weren't as interested. But it's a hard spot to follow. But I also think that's because this match was maybe the least anticipated match of this card. I didn't see as much talk about this match, mainly because it's kind of a story we've seen before. But either way, it was interesting. So I know we were going to go there, so it was going to be an interesting match nonetheless. So I will say, I do respect the EVPs for how they did kind of take the bullet on this one. I'm very happy with AEW, because this very easily could have been the women's match. Either one of them to follow that match and probably knock on a good reaction. But this match is the one that took the bullet for it. And I think the crowd got back into it, and I think that was rightfully deserved. Because this was not a bad match. This was fine. This was a fine match. Fine was a good place for this. Storytelling in this match was great. The match itself was fine. We've seen this match before. The physical wrestling was fine. But the story was good. And I think the story really carried this match for me. Golden Jets come out. Omega seemed the most over of the Golden Jets. Young Bucks had a decent reaction. Thought it might have been bigger being in California, being around their hometown, but it was fine. So, did pretty well. Omega being friendly with the Young Bucks early on, the crowd was not happy. They were happy to see the Young Bucks, but they definitely booed them the most. They were definitely the heels of this match. And the crowd was a little tired getting into this, mainly because they were so tired. Another note was Don Callis came down for commentary. I think this is the one time Don Callis wasn't overtly himself. Most of the time he comes down for commentary, I felt like he likes to yell, likes to make these outrageous points. This one, he just kind of felt there. He just felt on commentary, which was on par. Just is what it is. Pretty straightforward. There were some good spots in this. I think the biggest thing to highlight in this match was that the storytelling, being that Omega is still friends with the Young Bucks, but obviously still with Jericho. Jericho not really liking the Young Bucks. The Young Bucks really hating Jericho. It was pretty straightforward, nothing really big. There was one botch I saw by Jericho where he missed, and I think at that point that's when the crowd really stopped reacting to this match. There were some people trying after the death match, but they were already tired, and then after that botched lion insult, they were very much like, okay, I don't really care. They do all have good chemistry. They all fed off each other really well. Young Bucks look good. Young Bucks kind of started doing really big heel stuff here. Good heel moves behind the backs, trying to take down Jericho. They really focused their attention on Jericho. Omega versus the Bucks, there really wasn't a whole lot of action until the end. The big spot, I guess, was that you had both Jericho and Nick Jackson on the ropes, and he was lining up somebody for a V-trigger. Omega pointed as if he was going to V-trigger Jericho, which got a decent reaction, and then as he went toward it, he went back and went after Nick, which got an even bigger reaction. Kind of solidifying basically what was going on. That Omega's really just going to side with Jericho there, and I think they're going to do that. Bucks ended up being full heel by the end of this match. Omega gets the win. Golden Jets pick up the win. Crowd got back into it at the end after the story was being told, and then post-match you have the Bucks basically doing what they did originally in the start of this feud, which was breaking down and slamming stuff and throwing their shoes and basically having a tantrum like children. That was good. So your Golden Jets are your winner. They don't have to break up, and they get they have a title shot for the tag titles anytime they want. Again, this match was fine. This was totally fine. I was probably the least invested in this story. It's always good to see Kenny Omega wrestle. Omega's great at wrestling. We know Jericho's good at wrestling. We know the Bucks are good at wrestling. I think the fact that we've seen this before, you've just moved in Jericho and just had the Bucks really not like Jericho. But you've seen the whole argument of Kenny versus the Bucks before. And it's nothing bad. It's just, it's redundant. It's fine. It's the middle of the road. So Golden Jets have the next title shots. They're probably going to take on Ricky Starks and Big Bill at some time. My only hope is I don't think Kenny Omega and Chris Jericho need the tag titles. I don't think it does anything for them. I think, if anything, you could draw out them using that title shot and have them just keep getting better as a team. Have them work into other matches with people and then use it. Or you could have them win, but I think that hurts more of Ricky Starks and Big Bill than anything else. I think Omega and Jericho are stars. They don't really need to be in this team together. They just need something to do. I don't think them just having something to do should equal them getting the titles. It's cool to see, but it's not the end of the world. And then for the Bucks, I don't really know if you do with the Bucks. I saw something today. I'm recording this on Monday. I saw that they did put out a kayfabe thing through Brandon Cutler that they're gonna take some time off. And I think that's fine. I don't know what you do with the Bucks. I really don't. They don't have the tag title shot anymore. They're clearly turning heels. I think if I were to guess, you could do something with them aligning themselves with Don Callis. But I really don't know what you do with them at this point. Like, they're not in the title picture since they lost that thing. You could have them be heels and cheat all the way up to a title shot if you do give it to the Golden Jets. But they're just around, and I think they're going back to full heel Bucks. I think the next time they come back, they should be full heel Bucks. No nothing, no nice, no more elite. Don't need that. Just be themselves. It'll be fine. Again, this was a match that I didn't really feel like if either side won, it would be fine. The build for this wasn't as long, and I wasn't as interested in it, mainly because the main thing has been with Don Callis' family. This just felt like this felt like a little side quest in between. Or it just felt like something they do after, briefly. But it's over now, and that's the end of it. So, here's hoping that at least the Golden Jets can put on a nice title match. See what happens. Hopefully the Young Bucks come back and they are full heel. But again, I do want to highlight the fact that this match went right on after the death match, which was not going to be a good spot, wherever it was. It was not going to be a good spot coming after this. And I think it does speak. It's the fact that this match went on. I think this match was the right call. This could have easily, as I said before, been any other matches. Most likely probably would have been one of the women's matches. So I'm really happy that this was the match they put on after that, because this story was able to get the crowd back into it a little bit. And I think that really helps them, and I think it just speaks to, you know, the elite and Chris Jericho in-ring storytelling. I think that's the best, and I think that was this was the best this match could have done. Wasn't really high, wasn't that much, but that's just what it was. And I think if that's where it is on the card, and that's what you expected of it, and that's what you had going for you, that's fine. Nothing to write home about. My only overall critique could have been that because it followed the death match, it was so high on the card, which feels like a weird thing to go into, because the next match is the main event. And if you're following the main event and storytelling, maybe could have used a better match. I could have almost seen moving up a different match, moving up an Orange Cassidy, moving up the 4-way for the tag titles, and having this card, or even, probably even better, could have switched around and put the 6-man tag on as the co-main event here. Could have put the hardcore match, the death match, up first, and then switch this match in for the women's world title, and I think it would have been fine. But again, I mean, it was a fine match. I think the story was good. The wrestling was fine. We've seen it before. Kenny Omega's great. End of story. And I think it served a purpose. It just served getting the shot off the Bucks, because the Bucks weren't really doing anything. And they're not going to be doing anything recently, it seems like. And then, you know, if you do want to push the Golden Jets, might as well just have them wrestle a few teams, then face Big Bill and Ricky Starks. Maybe disband after that. Go from there. So, but it is what it is. And as I watched the end of this, I started to realize, oh shit, the main event, Colossal, is coming up, and oh boy, there's some interesting stuff to go over here. So, we got a little break, and now it's time for the main event. I kind of recap everything that's already happened. We had MJF get hurt in the pre-show. Again, why the pre-show? You're running this whole story throughout the pay-per-view, and it's on the pre-show. I didn't really like that. So now the new main event, as they're marketing it, is Adam Cole versus Jay White for the AEW World Championship. So, I'm going to break this down a little bit, because I do want to give this match its flowers. If you are watching this match, just flat out, trying to take out the story, just trying to watch the match is great. MJF and Jay White are great wrestlers. MJF selling his injury is great. Jay White selling is amazing. Jay White doing power moves and doing moves to hurt the leg even more. Fantastic. During the match, just the match itself is good. It's really good. MJF is proving why he's a good wrestler. And Jay White proves why he has just come in and earned a title shot. He looks great. Looks awesome. The match itself is good. The match gets bogged down when you think about it too much. And I'm not here to just sort of pander and be negative about this story. But the thing is, and the reality is, this story was not good. This story, the way they told it was not good. And it caused a lot of issues. If you sit here and you just watch the pay-per-view flat out, without really thinking about it, and you just watch the main event's good. The match itself, good. The work in the match, the story told in the match is fine. It's a good match.
And then you take a step back and you think about how you got here. And that's when the issues start to come in. So, you start out again. We're going to highlight this. I'm going to go over one more time. MJF is hurt. So hurt that he has to go to the hospital. So hurt that they're going to call off the match and just crown Jay White the AEW champion. Now, first of all, that just doesn't feel good. Because it's either one of two ways. Either one, you believe in the idea that Jay White's going to be champion, in which case, you're probably thinking, why did I spend the money because I'm not getting a main event? Or two, you're going to know, okay, well, MJF's clearly going to come back. But if he's so hurt, then he probably shouldn't win. But then you also already know that MJF is going to win because they've already talked about him facing Samoa Joe because he's in all of the storylines. The confusion there is really hard to decipher. I'm not sure what they were going for here. I'm assuming they were trying to go for MJF overcoming the obstacle that is Jay White and Bullet Club Gold. I just don't think it was told the right way. I don't think you need the injury angle here. You already have shown, you ended the week before the pay-per-view with MJF coming out, looking strong, basically taking out Juice Robinson. At this point, I think Juice Robinson's just dead, because he hasn't shown up at all. He looks strong versus Jay White, but Jay White still has numbers, because they still have the guns. I think you do this match just as the match it's supposed to be. You've done the legwork of selling this match. You've done the legwork of making it feel like MJF can't overcome Jay White, that Jay White has the one-up already on MJF. You don't need the injury here. You could just have the match and just have cocky Jay White be great as a heel and have MJF have to fight off not only the guns, but also Jay White, his actual challenger. I think that match is fine, because these two are good wrestlers. If you really want to do the injury angle, and you really want to do it, and you're Tony Khan, and you're thinking, this is what I want, then that's fine. But you don't need to do the injury angle to the point that they did it. If you do want to have the guns hurt MJF, then have him hurt him, but don't have him go to the hospital and leave. Don't have there be a whole new broadcasted main event that's taken so seriously that they actually have Adam Cole and Jay White walk out and start the match. Don't do that. That doesn't make sense. That doesn't feel weird. It feels off. It doesn't feel like what I'm watching is real. And not in the sense of, oh, all of a sudden, like, I'm invested. It almost makes it feel like a little off-putting, a little weird. Have MJF just be hurt. Instead of doing these sort of weird backstage recaps of the injury where you're interviewing referees and you're having an injured Adam Cole come wrestle, just have him in the back getting healed up, and then just have Adam Cole be by his side. Have the guns come out with Jay White. Have Adam Cole come out with MJF. Have MJF be hurt, but not overly hurt to where it's not as believable when he wins. It felt almost superhuman what MJF did. And here's the thing. I'm 27 years old. I don't know what some people who grew up watching Hulk Hogan used to believe. But that Superman shit is not that entertaining. It really isn't. I've seen the John Cena. I've seen the Hulk Hogan. I've seen the Roman Reigns. It gets old really quick. I do not think you needed that here.
Because I think now, MJF is going to be fine. MJF still looks great. MJF is still MJF. If anything, he looks like you can't beat him now. Which almost takes some shine away from Samoa Joe in their match coming up. The loser here was Jay White. Jay White looks not that great after this. He doesn't look bad. You know, he can recover. I'm not gonna sit here and pretend that, oh, he's buried, his career is over. His career is not over. His spot right now, though, is not good. Because, yeah, he's a cocky heel. He's kind of a cowardly heel. But now he just looks kind of weak. He looks like he can't beat a one-legged band. And I mean, that's not a position he needed to be in, especially with how much TV time the Guns have been getting. And I don't know what you do with Jay White after this. I would love it if he was in the Continental Classic and he went on a tear and actually showed that he can wrestle. He might need to after this showing. Because had they just done a normal match, they could have just had MJ White just go over clean over Jay White. And Jay White would still be fine because Jay White would still be a cocky heel with a faction. But now, I don't know how he has any trouble with the faction. I don't know what they're going to do. Because no one on Bullet Club Gold looked fantastic after this match. The Guns did their role, and they looked fine. But they couldn't even capture... They couldn't capture the Ring of Honor World Tag titles. And then they got thrown out of this match. And then they came back and couldn't win after coming back with interference. And it was just... there was just too much. There was just too much complicating this. So I'm just going to do a little quick recap of the whole match while we're here. Adam Cole comes out hobbling on one foot, looking like he weighs 180 pounds, and he's 55 years old, because he grew out his beard. It's not even a wrestling gear. He's in t-shirt and shorts, and he has some knee pads on, and an arm pad. They're really having Adam Cole sell the injury that he can't walk. And it's probably because he can't. Because he's, injured. But they're okay with sending this guy out to the match because, their champ is hurt. The champ has an undisclosed injury and he's hurt. But Adam Cole, who's 2 weeks out of 2 major surgeries, he's fine. We'll throw him in there. But whatever. Jay White comes out. Jay White is really hamming it up. He's laying down before the bell rings. He's pretending he's just talking to Adam Cole. He's just... Because that's logically, he should just dominate this. He should kick him in the face and pin him, and that should be enough. Bell's about to ring. All of a sudden, an ambulance comes down, and it's MJF, and he's hobbling to the ring. He is really putting this injury over. That he can't use his leg. Gets in the ring. And then he says, I'm entering this match. Now, first of all, while we're on the subject of things that were iffy, how does he just gets to come back and say that he's in the match? They had a whole thing that talked about, Adam Cole had to talk to Tony Khan that, I gotta get in this match. Which, first of all, doesn't make Khan look good because he just put an injured man in the match. Second of all, the fact that MJF can just declare that he's back in the match without going through it just means that you can do whatever you want. You can just enter in a match and just say, oh, you know what? I'm in it now. That just is what it is. But he's in the match. The match starts. And again, it's a lot of Jay White hurting the leg, pushing him down because he's injured. MJF coming back with some big spots. They did have one big spot after the table, which was, of course, was a nice symbolism of what I felt like this sort of match and story was that MJF was trying to put Jay White on the table. Jay White touches the table instantly breaks. So MJF, in a brilliant display, just decides, well, he's on the ground. I'll just jump from the top rope and land on him, which was a good spot. I was happy. I enjoyed this. Jay White still beating down MJF for most of it. A nice touch. You know, I will highlight this. A good part of this story was the story being told with Adam Cole on the sidelines. Adam Cole definitely came off kind of heelish here. He didn't look full babyface. He looked more like he was interested in Jay White getting hurt than the safety of MJF. He told MJF at one point to do a dive, which is stupid, but I like it. And at another point, he looks like he's in control of the towel. He could throw in the towel on MJF. I think that's good. I like that story. But again, you can do that story without the injury angle. You can just have that story be the story of the match instead of, oh my god, his leg doesn't work. But I did like that. That's a big plus. That definitely kind of furthers along the story of who's turning on who and who's going where. I think that's good. I like that. Crowd is still behind MJF, and I think it is because MJF is really over. He's our scumbag chance come out. Big slams by Jay. Jay had a big slam on MJF, which, again, was big and heavy. Would have hurt him even if he wasn't injured, but should have hurt him a lot more. Everyone's really happy with MJF building up the comebacks. There was a moment where they had the doctor stoppage with the injury, where the doctor came over and MJF told him to get out of here because he's going to keep wrestling. And he left him alone. Kept on wrestling. The throwing in the towel was a nice touch. And then there was this weird couple sequences where Cole had the diamond ring. He put it on the apron to give it to MJF. Jay White attacks him. Low blows him. Takes the ring from Cole. Cole doesn't even fight Jay White to get the ring. He just watches him. And then MJF low blows him. And not great. That was kind of weird. Eventually, Cole hits him with that diamond ring. He gets it back. Pins Jay White. MJF goes off. No devil appearance, no post anything. Just ends with MJF and Adam Cole going up the ramp. And that's the end of the match. Is it the worst match I've seen? No. Is it the worst main event I've seen? No. Is it the worst superhero-like version of a character I've seen? No, I've seen Super Scene. I know what that is. Was it done well? No, it wasn't. It's not the worst thing in the world. It's not pay-per-view ending bad. It's not this pay-per-view is bad because this match wasn't the best. It's not any of those things. But is it good? No. Did it make Jay White look good? No, it made him look really bad. Did MJF need this? No. Probably actually would have meant more if MJF just beat him normally. I see what they were trying to go for of him overcoming. It just didn't work. And that's just what it is. It just didn't work. And again, you can't change anything about it. If they could, you could either eliminate the injury or not, but it is what it is. I will hope that for Jay White especially, that he gets something to do after this that makes him look, I don't know, important. Because this didn't make him feel as important. This didn't make him feel like a superstar. This made him feel like a heel, but it made him feel like a bad heel and a bad leader. And I think if this is just a random faction, then it can work. But this is Bullet Club Gold. You know, off of Bullet Club. One of the best factions in the history of wrestling. And it's young, and it's new to AEW, but it's been on TV, and people are watching it, and people are getting behind it.
And people are cool with it being there. But doing this hurts that faction. It hurts it a lot. The Guns are just around. Again, I like the Guns a lot. But they're not around. Juice Robinson never showed up once, so he got taken out by a TV, so he didn't look fantastic. And Jay White had to eat that big L with a big exclamation point on it because he couldn't beat a guy on one leg. I don't think anyone was shocked that MJF was going to win this. MJF was always going to win this. Why? Because already we're hyping up Samoa Joe versus MJF later on. So we already knew that MJF was winning. There was no real part of anyone who thought that Jay White was going to win this match. And that's fine when they have a good match. But we went into this now, after all this debacle, knowing that Jay White was going to win, and he didn't even look good in the match that he wasn't supposed to win. That sends him down a bit. And that's rough. Because I think Jay White, in a company that has top talent, can and should be one of your top talent. But you're not treating him like that. Could you imagine more of the backlash if this was Samoa Joe being booked in this role instead of Jay White? My gosh, people would be totally upset with this. Not the best ending to the pay-per-view, but not enough to tank the whole pay-per-view. The pay-per-view was really, really good. Not everything was perfect, as we've talked about here right now, but it's a good pay-per-view. You got a lot of stars now. I think going forward for AEW, one of the biggest things is going to be to take the success of this and roll with it. Swerve Strickland comes to mind. Julia Hart comes to mind. Orange Cassidy and Jon Moxley can still keep going. Ricky Stark's still a star. The tag division is still hot. The women's division looks great. I think you have a lot of things going for you, and it's going to be interesting to see how they capitalize on these in the future. Very interested. Obviously, do they need to work on some things? Yes. They don't need to overbook certain matches. And obviously, they have some other feuds going that don't really need to be there, but they're fine for now. All in all, though, this is a good pay-per-view. And I gotta give it to AEW. Sometimes, there's been a lot of critique about AEW recently. But there's one big thing that I think is a fact. AEW puts on really good pay-per-views. And these really good pay-per-views do mean a lot. Keep putting on these matches and having these pay-per-views, this company will never go away. And I think that's a good thing. I'm excited to see what's new, and I'm excited to see what they do with this. This is on them from now on how they book this. I thought they did a good job getting this pay-per-view for where they needed to go, and I thought they put on a really good show. So, I was looking forward to Wednesday. We're going to see what happens. So, that's going to be it for me today. That's all I have on the recap. Join me this week on Thursday. I will be doing a recap of AEW Dynamite that'll be coming out. And we're going to be kind of discussing what's happening on the card, what we think. If you guys like the content, make sure to like and subscribe, or send it to a friend. If you like talking wrestling, definitely, that's what we're here for. Mention something in the comments if you see something. If I take a look through there, so if you want something you want me to talk about or something I see that's interesting, I'll bring it up. Be sure to be on the lookout for future content. We're going to keep putting out videos, keep putting out different reviews, especially around AEW. Going to start branching out a bit in the WWE here coming soon as well. And again, folks, I hope everybody has a great time. This is Matt from Mark's World here, and till next time, see you guys.